The Honourable Member for Thunder Bay, Superior North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on an issue that has become urgent to people of Northwestern Ontario and all Canadians. It's one that will have a real impact on the health of our fresh waters, our fish stocks, but also the health of citizens, not just in Canada, but around the world. This government does not believe in science. It does not want science, especially any science which refutes its ideologies or its agenda. The closure of the world-renowned experimental lakes area near Kenora in northwestern Ontario has been surrounded by secrecy. Questions to the government have only resulted in empty answers devoid of any information. Time is running out, Mr. Speaker. The announced closure of the ELA is only weeks away, with nobody lined up to take it over and continue its important work. Canadians deserve more than empty talking points. The people of Northwestern Ontario deserve more, and specifically, the people of the riding of Kenora deserve more. The way Conservatives have mishandled the ELA is also Exhibit A in a larger problem: excessive party control and MPs who represent Conservative interests to their constituents rather than fighting for their constituents' interests in Ottawa. So far, the Member of Parliament for Kenora has decided not to stand up for the ELA, despite the fact the vast majority of his constituents clearly oppose the government closing this unique facility in their riding. Kenora residents aren't alone. Opinion polls showed that 3/4 of all Canadians oppose the cancellation of funding for the ELA, including 60% of Conservative voters. The member of Kenora has also refused to address the fact that towns and cities across Northern Ontario have passed resolutions calling on the government to reverse their decision on the ELA. This includes cities like Thunder Bay, Rainy River, Atikokan, Chappelle, Dorian, Terrace Bay, Sioux Narrows, Nestor Falls, Nebing, Red Rock, Gillies, Hornpain, and more. It also includes major communities in the Kenora riding, like Dryden, Sioux Lookout, Lake of the Woods, Ignace, and Kenora itself. First Nations are against closing the ELA. Mr. Speaker, there is an overwhelming call for the government to reverse its decision on the ELA. The countless petitions tabled in this House by members from all parties and from across the country clearly show that, most especially from the people from Kenora. Yet we have never heard the Member of Parliament for Kenora rise to present a single ELA petition on behalf of its constituents in this House. It has been left to opposition MPs to present them on behalf of the people in his riding. In fact, the Member of Parliament for Kenora has never even uttered the words experimental lakes area in this House. Why? Why is this member not fighting for his constituents? Whose interests is the member representing? The member from Kenora was invited by his own constituents to a public meeting on the ELA last year, but he didn't show up. I know because I did, and so were over 100 of his constituents. Mr. Speaker, it isn't too late. On February 18 in Kenora, there will be another public meeting on the ELA at Knox United Church. The honourable member from Kenora has been invited. Will he attend? On February 4th, the member for Kenora was forwarded a petition signed by over 500 residents of his riding on ELA. Mr. Speaker, will he present them? And when, Mr. Speaker, will this member speak up for his constituents? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased one more time to respond about the experimental lakes area. I think in summary it's this, that the Government of Canada has made its decision and Fisheries and Oceans Canada will no longer operate the facility. The Department recognizes that the ecosystem experiments conducted at the experimental lakes area have helped to enhance scientific knowledge of freshwater ecosystems. However, the Department is now focusing its scientific work on that being conducted at other locations across the country to meet its research needs. The Department hopes to transfer the experimental lakes area to another operator better suited to managing it and ensuring that it is available to scientists in universities or elsewhere who require whole lake manipulations. the department no longer needs to do this type of research. Indeed, the research that is conducted at the facility is of interest to many other science-based organizations. This is why, Mr. Speaker, departmental officials at Fisheries and Oceans Canada have held a number of discussions with a variety of interested parties. These discussions have resulted in the identification of potential operators. The department remains hopeful a successful conclusion to those discussions will be reached as quickly as possible. While Fisheries and Oceans Canada is working to transfer the facility to another operator, the department is continuing to invest in freshwater research in other locations in response to departmental needs. Mr. Speaker, the department maintains an active freshwater fish habitat science program. This research examines fisheries productivity in response to the effects of human activities, including hydroelectric projects and industrial water extraction. In addition, work is conducted to develop tools to assist managers and stakeholders in protecting fisheries. This past summer, the department invested research funding for a science project to predict and forecast the effects of multiple stressors on fisheries in the Great Lakes. The department also funded research investigating the drivers of fish productivity in fresh water. Mr. Speaker, these projects support commercial, aboriginal, and recreational fisheries, and the resulting data will help inform departmental decisions about the aquatic environment and fisheries resources. In addition to these fish habitat projects, Fisheries and Oceans Canada has invested in science to better understand the risk of aquatic invasive species, a major threat to biodiversity. This supports effective measures to prevent new invasions and mitigates the impact of aquatic invasive species in our freshwater ecosystems. Mr. Speaker, the department is working with the province of New Brunswick to evaluate efforts to eradicate invasive smallmouth bass from Miramichi Lake, as one example. In partnership with the United States, the department is managing sea lamprey through the Sea Lamprey Control Program in the Great Lakes. We're also working with the United States to address potential aquatic invasive species. In July 2012, the Binational Risk Assessment for Asian Carp in the Great Lakes was publicly released to help guide Canadian and American prevention, monitoring, and control activities, and the department is continuing to conduct research on other species of Asian carp. Mr. Speaker, the department conducts freshwater science activities in various locations across the country, including the Great Lakes, the Fraser River, and lakes and streams in the Northwest Territories, Lake Winnipeg, and the St. Lawrence River. The department also collaborates with a variety of science partners, including other government departments, provincial governments, universities, industry, and non-government organizations. These successful collaborations result in scientific information that the department can use to develop policies and make decisions to support conservation and long-term sustainability. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, Fisheries and Oceans Canada will continue to invest in and maintain our active freshwater science program. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Thunder Bay, Superior North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we're no closer to any answers with that woefully inadequate response. But let me tell the member what we do know. We know that the DFO has started procedures for decommissioning the ELA at great cost. We know that no other organization has the resources to pay the $50 million to decommission the ELA. We know that the transfer of the ELA to anyone else will require transition funding. Time is running out, Mr. Speaker. It's mid-February, and the facility is scheduled to close on March 31st, if no arrangements can be made to keep it open. There are two simple questions for me to finish with here. Will the government extend the March 31st deadline as is clearly needed? And if not, will the government at least commit to bridge financing to keep the ELA open for the 3 to 5 years until a good partner can take over in an orderly fashion? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And unfortunately, my colleague has his facts wrong. I don't know where he's got his figures from, but they're definitely not accurate. And as I've said at the outset, the government has made its decision that we will no longer be operating this facility in the future. So while the department is winding down its whole lake ecosystem experiments, it's continuing to invest in freshwater science in other locations across the country. As I described earlier, the department has an active freshwater research program in many priority areas and departmental scientists are conducting research on freshwater fish habitat and aquatic invasive species. So DFO is focusing its use of research dedicated resources to prioritize